Exposed, 5 spine-chilling encounters with a sinister skinwalker in a haunted abandoned building. Sarah heard something scrape against the weathered siding of her new home. She froze, heart pounding in her chest. That noise? It sent a chill down her spine. The crumbling Hillcrest Hospital loomed nearby, a dark silhouette against the night sky, its windows like empty eye sockets. Once vibrant, the town of Willow Creek now felt like a graveyard, and for Sarah, it was the last refuge after her father's death. She was desperate to build a new life for her 2 children amidst the shadows. But the air was thick with whispers. It was a town stitched together with old legends, the kind that pulled at the fraying edges of sanity. Locals warned of a creature from Navajo folklore, one that prowled these parts, the Skinwalker. They said it could take the shape of anything, mimic any sound, and feast on the fears of the living. Just the thought sent shivers racing down her spine. At first, it seemed like a regular day. The kids were adjusting, running through the yard, and acting silly. But as the sun sank below the horizon, the atmosphere shifted. The laughter faded, replaced by something unsettling. One evening, Sarah noticed her son, Jamie, talking to an older boy standing at the edge of their property. The boy was wrapped in shadows, mouth moving in a way that made Sarah's skin prickle. Just as quickly as he appeared, he vanished into the twilight. "Who was that?" she asked, trying to play it cool. "Just a friend," Jamie said, grinning. But Sarah felt unease twist in her gut, gnawing at her like an itch she couldn't scratch. A few days later, the howls began. Lonely calls that seemed to curl around the creaky wooden beams of the house. She tried to ignore them. After all, it was just the wind, right? But then, she caught glimpses of shadowy figures darting out of the corners of her vision. Animals with twisted limbs, watching with eyes that glowed in the dark. Was it her imagination, or was something watching her? Sarah thought about reaching out to the sheriff. But the locals only brushed off her concerns, smirking like she was just an overprotective mom. "You'll get used to it," they said, their condescension slicing through her like a knife. But how could she shake the feeling that danger lurked beneath the surface, that the real menace wore a friendly mask among the town? Then came the nightmares, screams echoing in the darkness, Jamie and Lily crying out for help in their sleep. Each morning, they would talk about a figure in the shadows, about a man who had strange skin and knew their names. Each night drew them closer to something sinister. Sarah's instincts screamed that they were being lured, as if that boy, that shadow, was a siren, and she was helpless against his call. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One night, she sat shivering in the dark, voices echoing from the hospital, a cacophony of laughter mixed with low growls. In that moment, reality twisted. She could feel the town's secrets pressing down on her, all leading back to her children, and that eerie boy who seemed to drift in and out of her life. Was he the one who kept whispering to them? Who was this friendly figure disguised as a child, yet cloaked in shadows? As the ground beneath her shifted, Sarah's resolve solidified. She had to protect her children from whatever darkness awaited them. But she could feel it closing in, leaving her with a choice that would ignite a desperate struggle against an enemy who might not be of this world. When trust fades and monsters are no longer in the dark but dancing in the open light, what can a mother do to keep her family safe? The air felt heavier the next morning, thick with a sense of dread as Sarah moved through the house. She watched her children while preparing breakfast, their faces pale, shadows under their eyes, like they hadn't slept at all. Jamie was fidgeting, glancing out the window toward the hospital. Lily, usually the bubbly one, sat at the table with her head down, fingers tracing the grain of the wooden surface as if searching for a hidden message. "Mom, can we go play outside?" Jamie's voice trembled slightly. "Not today, sweetheart," Sarah replied, her own voice shaky. She didn't want them near that hospital, not with the echoes blurring the lines between reality and nightmare. Suddenly, the front door slammed open. Sarah whipped around, breath caught in her throat. A gust of cold wind filled the room, rattling the glass panes. Standing silhouetted in the doorway was the boy Jamie had spoken to, a figure wrapped in shadows, blending with the darkening sky. "Let him come out to play," the boy said, his voice an eerie, sing-song cadence that snaked into her mind. "I promise it'll be fun." "No!" Sarah shouted, rushing toward the door, heart racing. She could see Jamie moving toward the phantom boy, eyes glazed in a trance. This was at the moment she had dreaded, when her children might be pulled into a world of horror. Stay away from him. But the boy just grinned, a saw-toothed smile that widened far too much for any human. Sarah reached for Jamie, grabbing his arm just in time, pulling him back with all her strength. "Mom, what is wrong?" he whined, confusion dancing in his eyes. "That is not a friend, Jamie. He is not real." The boy laughed, an unsettling sound, and it echoed coldly into the air, deepening the silence around them. "I'm very real. But you don't want to play anymore? You could have so much fun." With a swift motion, Sarah slammed the door, locking it tight. She turned and faced her children, who looked more lost than before. Their expressions twisted with unease, as they fought against an unseen pull. Mommy Lily whimpered, clutching her stuffed bunny close. Sarah knelt, looking into their frightened eyes. "We're going to stay inside today. We'll do something fun together." She tried to muster a smile, but inside, fear clawed at her insides. The day dragged on, each tick of the clock amplifying the sense of impending doom. Whispers slithered through the house, chilling her to the bone. At one point, she thought she saw a shadow flit past the window, but when she looked, nothing was there. Her heart raced. Night fell, cloaking the world outside in an inky black. The howls began again, louder this time, haunting melodies that twisted through the air. Laughter floated from the direction of the hospital, a sound warped by menace, making the hairs on her arm stand. "Jamie, it's time for bed," she said, voice steady but trembling inside. She needed to keep them close, to shield them from whatever darkness lurked beyond the walls. "Mom," the boy Jamie started, but Sarah shushed him, pulling him into her embrace, fear tightening around her chest like a vice. As Jamie and Lily curled up beneath the blankets, Sarah sat against the wall, eyes fixed on the door, every creak echoing like a warning. Shadows danced around her, threatening to dig in and envelop her mind. She needed a plan, a way to confront this lurking horror before it consumed them. Heavy footsteps began to echo outside, rhythmically drawing closer until they stopped just outside their home. Silence fell thick and heavy, like a shroud. "Mom?" Jamie whispered, voice trembling. Sarah held her breath, a chill creeping down her spine. The door rattled, slowly growing more intense. And then, in a voice both sweet and sinister, it called, "Sarah!" What was that thing that knew her name, like it was toying with her? Before she could answer, the door shook with a forceful blow, rattling the frame. Fear surged through her veins as she prepared to face whatever nightmare awaited them. But what awaited her on the other side? The house shuddered, and something sinister stirred from the shadows, revealing its true intentions. The door rattled again, this time with a ferocity that made the walls vibrate. Sarah pressed her back against the frame, holding her breath, heart pounding like a drum. "Stay close, kids," she whispered, though the last remnants of courage were fading. Jamie clutched Lily's hand, wide-eyed, desperately searching his mother's face for reassurance. "Let me in, Sarah," the voice crooned again, a twisted version of a friend once lost. "We can play together. Just be brave, let me in." Something primal surged inside her. She couldn't let it in. Not now, not ever. The kids shifted restlessly, sensing their mother's fear. A sudden loud thud hit the door, jolting them all. The footsteps had moved, now circling the house. Sarah moved to the window, inching the curtain aside. The night was like ink spinning with swirling shadows. She squinted, searching for movement. "I need to see," she murmured. When she finally caught sight of a form tall and crooked, her stomach dropped. The boy stood just out of the light, watching, waiting. "Mom!" "It's the boy!" Jamie tried to shout, but the weight of the air silenced him, sealing his words in a sickening grasp. "Jamie, no!" She yanked him back, her panic rising. The children huddled together on their beds, frozen in a blend of terror. Outside, a low growl emerged with a strange, almost echoed laughter. It wasn't just the boy anymore. There was something else lurking behind him. Something dark, feral. "Come out and play!" The boy taunted, his voice sticky with a delight that dripped like poison. The lights flickered overhead, and then there was a crackling sound, electricity dancing along the edges of her vision. Their world felt like it was crashing down around them, each passing second fueling a fire of dread. Then it spoke again, mixed with malicious delight. "Do you believe in stories, Sarah? The ones where children go missing and their mothers they follow?" She spun back to the door, the wood pressing against her palm like a pulse. "What do you want?" she yelled, her voice trembling. "I want to play with what's mine," it hissed, echoing through the cracks in her sanity. The boy, or whatever it was now, lunged forward, a blur against the darkness. Something slammed against the door, and the kids screamed. She yanked them closer, wrapping her arms around them protectively while her mind raced. It was all wrong. Could she take them through the back? Would they even make it? The house felt like it was closing, and clawed terror burrowed under her skin. As the thrumming intensified outside, a flash illuminated the living room, revealing the grotesque shapes of swollen shadows creeping along the walls. This was no ordinary child. The eyes peering back were dark and hungry, pools that craved fear. "Mom!" Jamie cried, clutching tightly to his sister, who was now shaking uncontrollably. "Everything will be okay. We'll figure this out," she said, half lying, her thoughts racing faster than her heart. She had to gather her strength, had to protect them. This was the moment she needed to face whatever darkness had come for them. A sudden loud crash startled her. The sound shattered her resolve. The door was buckling under the pressure, rattling like a caged beast. "Mom! Mom!" Jamie cried, and she could see it in his expression, raw terror and trust. Time blurred, each second stretching into eternity. Was this the end? Was she to watch her children being taken by a force she didn't understand? In that moment, the laughter returned, wrapping around her like a cold fog. As she prepared herself for the worst, she turned towards the door once more, and then she heard something new, a soft tapping, like a child's finger against glass. It was coming from the window. Something had found a way in. What shadow awaited them now? The soft tapping grew louder, a desperate rhythm that felt like a death knell. Sarah's breath hitched. The children barely moved, peering over their mother's shoulder with wide, terrified eyes. "Stay here," she whispered, dreading what lay on the other side. With every step toward the window, the darkness thickened, as if swallowing all the light in the room. "Mom, don't!" Jamie pleaded, gripping Lily's arm tighter. The tapping turned into a scrape, nails dragging against the glass. Sarah's heart raced. She forced herself to look through the pane. The moon's glow revealed the twisted face of the boy, not alone anymore. Behind him, shadows writhed and shifted, like smoke curling around a flame. They were forming into something human, yet distorted, a ghastly collection of limbs and hollow eyes. "Just let us in, Sarah," the boy intoned, tilting his head so far to one side it felt wrong, unnatural. "We're only playing." Her skin crawled. "No, I want to let you." She pressed her palms on the cool glass, feeling its pulse, its heartbeat. The figure behind the boy lurched forward, its mouth twisting into a grin that stretched too wide, peeling back skin to reveal rows of jagged teeth. "You're so close to helping them find their way home," it hissed, the words slithering into her mind. "Don't you want your children to be safe?" "Get away from my kids," Sarah screamed, shattering the stillness. She turned, snatching Jamie and Lily, and bolted for the back door. The floorboards creaked ominously beneath their feet. She could hear the whispers trailing behind her, taunting her resolve. "You can't run forever, Sarah, this is where you belong." With a burst of adrenaline, she yanked the back door open, only to be met with oppressive shadows coiling around an empty yard. There was no safety there, only an infinite stretch of darkness, where even the stars seemed to have hidden away. "Mom, it's too dark," Jamie cried out, his voice splintered with fear. I know, she shouted back, backing away slowly, the hairs on her neck prickling. The sounds of movement grew louder, echoing like a chant, rising and falling around them. Just ahead, in the corner of her vision, something flitted past, an indistinct shape darting between trees, tiny and fast. A child? Or something far worse? "Stay close," she warned as she backed further away from the door, her eyes darting for any path. The children's hands felt so small in her grip, fragile yet filled with a desperate need for safety. Then the laughter returned, a cascading echo that enveloped her. "You're out of time. It's game on, choose a door, Sarah." Panic surged through her as an insane urge washed over her. The walls felt like they were closing in. The dark whispers turned into a cacophony, scratching at her sanity with every word. "Play with us. Just let go." Suddenly Jamie's light tugging on her coat broke through the chaos. "Mom, look." Her heart sank as she turned toward the window again, where the boy now stood smiling, innocent yet deeply wrong. Behind him, shapes shifted, shadows bending in an almost rhythmic manner. That same twisted creature moved closer, looming like a storm cloud ready to unleash hell. "Mom!" The despair in Jamie's voice jolted her back. "What do we do?" In that moment, she caught a glimpse of hope, a gnarled tree to the side, cloaked in shadows, leading to the woods. It was the only way. "Run!" she yelled, swinging open the door in desperation. But as she turned to lead the children to safety, the figure in the window lunged forward, its broken, jagged form reaching out towards them. As they sprinted toward the safety of the woods, she felt an icy hand brush against her back, sending chills through her spine. The darkness pulsed with malicious laughter, echoing their name. Would they escape the malevolent grasp of the darkness? Would it stop at nothing to claim what it desired? In that suffocating embrace of the unknown, Sarah stumbled into the deep trees, her mind racing ahead with one truth echoing louder than any other. Something awaited them in the dark, insatiably hungry for their fear. What had they truly invited in? The woods enveloped them, forming a thick, suffocating wall of shadows. Every branch clawed at their skin, every rustle of leaves whispered nightmares. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest, loud as thunder. She held Jamie and Lily's hands tightly, their fear pulsing through her like an electrical current. "Keep moving," she urged, her voice a strained whisper. The laughter behind them twisted in the air, curling around the trees like tendrils of smoke, eager and relentless. They stumbled deeper into the forest, branches snagging at their clothes. The boy's howl echoed through the trees, blending into a chorus of warped laughter that sent ice through her veins. They'll find you. They always do, it taunted. Her breath turned ragged, each inhale sharp and filled with panic. There had to be a way out. Ahead, a sliver of faint light flickered, pulling her forward. Desperation propelled her, even as she felt the shadows closing in. Mom! It's getting colder. Jamie's teeth chattered, his small frame shaking beside her. I know, baby. Just a little further. But deep inside, dread curled like a cold snake in her stomach. She could feel it watching, waiting for them to stumble, just like on those dark playground nights, when kids dared each other to stay in the shadows too long. As they reached the light, a small clearing flanked by ancient, gnarled trees, they finally halted. She pulled the kids close, searching their faces. Fear shimmered in their eyes, but also resolve. Together, they could face whatever this nightmare was. Look! Lily gasped, pointing up. In the center of the clearing stood an old, dead tree, its trunk twisted and hollow, like the mouth of a beast waiting to swallow them whole. It looks wrong, Jamie muttered, eyeing it with suspicion. Maybe it's a way out, Sarah suggested, trying to sound more confident than she felt. But as they stepped closer, the ground shook slightly, making the leaves tremble, and the air vibrate with an otherworldly energy that pricked at their skin. A sudden thought struck her. What if that's what they want? To lure us in? Just then, the laughter returned, sharper than before, and the boy's face reappeared at the edge of the tree line, his eyes glinting like shards of glass. You found it. The way into the game. Before she could react, the shadows behind the boy surged forward. They twisted together, forming grotesque figures with shifting faces. Each were somehow familiar yet so terribly wrong. They all beckoned, their whispers merging into a single, maddening chant. Join us, for it's only fun. Sarah stumbled back, clutching the children more tightly. We have to go. Now! A frantic fear flooded her chest. She turned, scanning the trees for another path, but the shadows spread, closing off their escape. The world seemed to constrict around them, suffocating the light, drowning out the remaining hope. All she could hear was the frantic beating of her heart against the silence that threatened to fold in. Mom! Jamie cried out, his voice a fragile thread. With a last burst of adrenaline, they darted around the gnarled tree, weaving through the darkness, hoping to find space, any space to breathe. But the laughter surged, now shaping into monstrous forms, reaching for them like hungry ghosts. They ran as fast as their legs could carry them, branches whipping against their skin like the claws of the desperate shadows after them. But in the heart of fear, Sarah suddenly remembered something, a legend she had heard, an old wives' tale about the light. She turned back toward the clearing, breathless. Maybe if we find the source of the light, we can protect ourselves. The tree might be the key. But was it too late? The shadows flowed in, thick and impenetrable. As she hesitated, a dark figure emerged, more defined than the others, its features twisting into something familiar. It wore a mask of everything she feared, a reflection of herself. Join us, Sarah. It crooned, the voice both hers and something profoundly sinister. You can be free. Just let go. As the darkness closed in tightly around them, she realized. Perhaps this was not a game for them at all. It was a trap, and they were the unwitting players. Would she surrender to the dark whispering doubts, or could she find the courage to resist? As her mind spun with a choice, she felt Jamie's grip loosen. He took a tentative step toward the figure, his innocence dancing with danger. Mom, I can't. From the shadows, the boy whispered again. It's your turn. Choose who you want to be. What was about to unravel would shake the forest itself. Sarah's instinct screamed. She thrust her arm out, pulling Jamie back with her. No! She shouted, panic lacing her voice. The figure, a contorted mirror of her own despair, smiled back, an invitation cloaked in darkness. Join us, darling. The voice echoed ominously, sending shivers down her spine. "You and your children are meant to play." Lily clutched Sarah's leg, her wide eyes reflecting terror. "Mom, it's so cold," she cried. The air thickened, freezing their breaths. "Stay with me," Sarah yelled, forcing herself to look away from the figure. The laughter of the shadows echoed, monstrous and unrelenting. The woods themselves seemed to twist and writhe, trembling as the air thickened, suffocating her like a wet blanket. With frantic urgency, Sarah turned toward the gnarled tree, its twisted branches resembling skeletal fingers stretching through the dark. That tree. It has to be the light. We need to reach it. They sprinted, footfalls pounding against the frozen earth, but the laughter grew louder, swirling into a cacophony of torment. Behind them, the shadowy forms surged forward, each face morphing as if they were eating away at identity, revealing her fears in grotesque detail. She caught glimpses of Jamie's playful smile warped into a twisted grimace, and Lily's innocent laughter spiraled into a banshee-esque wail. "Mom!" Jamie screamed, terror wrapping around him. "Hold on to me!" Sarah yelled back, feeling the surge of fear threaten to swallow her whole. They pressed on, urgency spurring their movements, the darkness nipping cruelly at their heels. As they neared the tree, a blinding light started to glow from within its hollow trunk, illuminating the space around them. It was both relentless and inviting. "Step into it," Sarah urged, her heart racing with both fear and hope. But the shadows did not waver. They twisted together, forming an impenetrable barrier. She could feel the darkness pulsating, aware and alive, breathing in their fear. As she hesitated, the boy appeared again, his laughter now a piercing shriek. "You can never escape. You'll find comfort in the dark." Then came Lily's voice, a whisper laced with confusion. "Mom, what if we join them?" "No! That's not who we are," Sarah shouted, battling her own doubts. The sinister echo of "join us" filled her mind, wrapping around her thoughts like ivy strangling an old tree. The gnarled tree behind them radiated a warmth that surged against the encroaching cold. It promised salvation and safety but felt like a lie knotted in her gut. Just a little further, suddenly, something sharp snagged at Sarah's ankle. She screamed, stumbling to the ground. The shadows pulled around her, hissing and clawing for her to be part of them. Jamie helped her up, his small hand shaking. "Please, Mom. Now! We go now!" She lifted them both, and they dashed toward the light, every instinct guiding her. The shadows lunged, but the glow from the tree pulsed with a rhythm that felt alive. It begged for them, beckoning them closer. "Leap!" she exclaimed, the edge of the clearing pressing tight against their backs. With a single desperate bound, they threw themselves toward the treacherous space inside the glow. But just as they crossed the threshold, the laughter of the shadows morphed into a dreadful scream, echoing through the air, shattering the moment. They landed hard on the ground, a surge of light enveloping them entirely, but it felt wrong, unnatural. Sarah's heart hammered violently, confusion flooding her mind. The space shifted around them, filling with echoes of their past first birthdays, school days, laughter all overshadowed by haunting screams that slowly morphed into their own voices, warped and twisted. "Is this it?" Jamie asked, fear lining his voice. "Are we safe?" But as the shadows closed in behind them, Sarah could barely breathe. "What have we done?" she murmured, dread coiling around her like a serpent. The tree's hollow mouth shaded them from the relentless dark, but the shadows lingered, swirling like smoke. "You shouldn't have come here," they hissed, "but now you will never leave." As the realization hit her, the blinding light dimmed. Even deeper shadows began to writhe, preparing to take hold once more. What had entered the tree was one thing. What might emerge was something very different. What unspeakable truth awaited them inside the heartbeat of darkness? The chilling darkness wrapped around them like a shroud, more oppressive than before. Sarah's senses prickled with foreboding. The familiar sounds of her life, their home, laughter, even the mundane hum of everyday existence transformed into dreadful howls that echoed in the hollow space around her. "Mom, I can't see," Jamie whimpered, his small voice slicing through the dark. Panic pulled at Sarah's heart. "Hold my hand," she urged, gripping his tiny fingers with a force that broke through her fear. Around them, shadows twisted and coiled, writhing in anticipation. The once comforting light was now a dim glow, flickering like a dying flame, each pulse pulling them deeper into the sinister belly of the tree. The laughter from lurking figures slithered through the air, mocking them. "Join us, dear ones, join the games." A sudden weight bloomed in Sarah's chest. "What games?" she stammered, the question falling from her lips despite a deep instinct to remain silent. The shadows twisted tighter, and a voice emerged, soft and sweet yet tainted with venom. "Games of despair. Games of temptation. We'll reveal everything you desire, everything you fear." It slithered through her thoughts, inviting yet terrifying, a promise of connection tinged with despair. Lily pressed closer. "Mom, I don't like this." Her voice trembled, a fragile thread of sound tangled with the ominous whispers. Then they appeared, tormented figures materializing from the darkness, their features flickering as if caught between realities. Former friends, lost family, even forgotten faces smiled back at them, twisted in expressions that vacillated between joy and horror. Each face bore the mark of despair, bloodied and broken. "Come to us," they cried, arms outstretched. "Feel the warmth of belonging. Only together can we be whole." "No! We aren't part of you!" Sarah screamed, turning away from the poor echoes of hope and loss. "This isn't real." Her heart raced as the familiar voices morphed, weaving into a dissonant symphony that twisted her thoughts, taunting her very being. Sarah's voice floated in the air, slinking around her like smoke. It was a voice she recognized too well, yet it felt alien. "Sarah, it's me. I'm waiting. Come and play." The words dripped with deceit, igniting raw memories of lost moments, the past she desperately wanted to escape. But before she could respond, Jamie let out a yelp. "The shadows! They're pulling me!" "Stay close," Sarah ordered, fear sinking into her bones as she yanked Jamie closer. The shadows clawed at both of them, icy tendrils wrapping around their limbs like shackles, whispering seductive lies of comfort and safety, enjoying their embrace. Panic snapped through Sarah. With every ounce of strength, she turned to the tree. Its trunk pulsed, still threatening. "Get to the light," she shouted. With a surge of raw energy, she dashed forward, dragging her children along. The shadows shrieked, rage swelling as they stumbled toward the flickering glow that promised salvation. But the glow flickered, dimming further, as the whispers transformed into a mournful wail. "You can never escape." Raging shadows rushed forward to swallow them whole, their cold grasp relentless. "Mom, I'm scared," Jamie cried, his voice unraveling within the chaos. "Keep running." Sarah felt her heart pound and sink with the tremendous darkness around them. They could feel the shadows pressing closer, fingers pulling at their clothes, tugging at their very souls. Just as they leapt into the heart of the light, Sarah embraced the warmth, hoping it would protect them. But a powerful wind spiraled around them, dragging them back, twisting their bodies and minds. Darkness bled through the light. "You think you can escape?" A monstrous voice bellowed, raw and unyielding. "Mom!" Lily screamed, her small frame trembling beside her. The light dimmed, revealing a swirling vortex of nightmarish memories, the life they had fought to leave behind now clawing at them with renewed fervor. Within the darkness, they saw reflections of themselves, their true selves, distorted, a glimpse of who they could become in this wretched place. And then, silence enveloped them. "Are you curious to know what lies ahead?" asked the shadows, their voices twisted echoes of lost hopes. What will be revealed when you face the mirror within? A terrible truth hung in the air, thick with dread. In that moment, Sarah knew they weren't just fighting for survival. They were battling for their very souls. But who would rise from the ashes of despair? What awaited them on the other side of the dark? The stillness was oppressive, almost smothering. Sarah listened, her breath shallow as she strained to hear anything other than the distant cries that echoed within the shadows. They were ensnared in a space that felt both infinite and constricting, and the silent moments stretched endlessly like time had forgotten them. "Mom?" Jamie's whisper pierced through the thick silence, trembling as it lingered in the air. "What is happening?" His small fingers gripped tighter around hers, his heart pounding in rhythm with hers. The silence wrapped tighter, and Sarah felt a cold sweat trickle down her spine. "I don't know, sweetheart." Her voice was hoarse, like a gravelly edge of despair. "But we need to stay together. We'll find a way out." But the shadows shifted. They rippled as if alive, curling inward like a predator closing in on its prey. The voices multiplied, swirling around them in an unsettling cacophony, rising from the depths of despair. "Come, Sarah, come, Jamie," they danced at the edges of her mind, their sweet calls slowly morphing into a dreadful chant, chilling her to her core. "Mom, please!" Lily's voice was raw. "They're lying." "Stay strong," Sarah shouted, trying to drown out the voices with her own. The shadows seemed to mock her futile attempt, echoing back her words in cruel harmony. Just then, a flicker of light burst forth, momentarily illuminating the darkness. Faces appeared algid and anguished. They swirled ominously before her, each bearing stories of lost dreams and shattered hopes. A once familiar figure stepped closer, and dread clutched at Sarah's throat as she gasped. "Dad?" Didn't he want to believe? Didn't he want to hope? His smile was twisted, eyes filled with a hollow light. "Don't you want to see me, Sarah?" He beckoned, reaching out with bony fingers, beckoning as shadows drew him back into the depths. "Join us." "No," Sarah cried out, but a part of her wanted to fall into that familiar darkness, to know the comfort of what was lost. Terror coursed through her, battling against the vile allure of the past. "Mom, don't look!" Jamie yelled, yanking her hand. "It's a trap!" His voice held an urgency that broke through her trance, causing her to shake her head, wiping away tears that blurred her vision. The pulsing light dimmed, and the wail grew louder, clawing at her sanity. The faces grew angry, their features distorting into grotesque shapes, mouths opening wide in a heart-stopping scream. They were hungry, desperate for the warmth of life, for the touch of someone who had known them once. "Run!" she commanded, turning away from the mournful specters. The way behind her was shrouded in inky black, but ahead she saw the faint outline of a door, its shape like a faint promise in a storm. They ran, legs pounding against the cold, unforgiving ground. But just as they reached the door, a wall of shadows erupted, blocking their path. Long, grasping hands shot out, each cold fingertip brushing against her skin. Sarah could feel the pull, the disembodied voices whispering secrets buried deep within her own heart. "Let us show you," they begged, pulling her toward the heart of the darkness. "Let us take you home." "No!" Sarah screamed, yanking Jamie and Lily backward. The shadows withdrew slightly, hissing in frustration, their grip loosening just enough for her to see the door again. "Go!" she shouted, shoving her children ahead of her. There was a flicker of hesitation, a pause in time where no prey dared to move. Then she bolted behind them, forcing herself into the last breath of consciousness before darkness surged once more. As they spilled through the door, the world beyond flashed before their eyes, a blinding light, bursting like a fever dream. For a brief moment, terror faded, replaced by an overwhelming sense of safety. But it was fleeting. Behind them, the door slammed shut, the finality echoing like a death knell. They stood in an empty clearing, the air heavy with confusion and fear. "Did we escape?" Jamie whispered, tremors coursing through his small frame. But Sarah knew better. She could feel it lingering in the air. The shadows were still there, waiting, watching, plotting their return. What would happen when they came for them again? The stillness of the moment was shattered by a loud thud. A shadow formed at the edge of the trees, a massive silhouette, looming closer. "Get back!" Sarah shouted, her heart racing as she prepared to confront whatever horror lurked in the darkness. Could they truly survive this time? Or had they simply traded one nightmare for another? The shadow advanced, each movement slow and deliberate, a dark liquid that oozed between the trees. Sarah's instincts screamed at her to flee, but she stood rigid, gripping her children tightly. Jamie's little body trembled against hers, while Lily's wide eyes searched the encroaching darkness for any hint of hope. "Mom, what is it?" Jamie whispered, his voice barely breaking the fearful silence. "I don't know," Sarah admitted, her throat tightening. The silhouette grew more distinct, revealing distorted limbs and an unsettling face that seemed to shift in the dim light, a ghastly imitation of humanity. An animalistic growl escaped its throat, sending splinters of ice down her spine. "Stay behind me," she instructed, her voice trembling but firm. The air thickened, filled with an ancient, rotting smell that pinched at her nostrils. The figure halted just outside the clearing, hesitating as if assessing its prey. Shadows gathered around it, swirling in a dance of malice. Sarah fought to keep her breath steady, the pounding in her chest almost drowning out the faint, alien whispers that crept back into her ears. Join us, Mom," Lily wailed, her small hands digging into Sarah's waist. "I can't stand it." In a desperate attempt to break the hold of despair, Sarah squeezed her children closer, her own fear flickering into a determination fueled by love. "We won't let it take us. We'll fight." The creature's hollow eyes bore into her, as if it could read her thoughts. What did it want? What does it crave? She thought frantically, but hardly wanted to know the answer. With a sudden, sharp movement, the beast lunged, its elongated fingers clawing through the air. In that split second, Sarah decided. "Run!" she screamed, pushing her kids forward. They tore through the clearing, hearts racing, the branches clawing at their clothes as they dashed into the thicket. The sounds of crushing twigs and rustling leaves filled the air, pushing them to sprint faster. She could hear the creature's growl echoing behind them, a sinister serenade urging them to stop. "Keep going, don't look back," she shouted, fear chasing them like a ghost. But the ground twisted. It dipped into a dark pit, real and surreal all at once, and Sarah stumbled, losing her grip on Lily's hand. The world around her seemed to warp and contract, the shadows dilating with malicious glee. Jamie gasped, falling to one knee to help his sister up. "Lily!" Sarah cried, reaching for her daughter, who was grappling with the thick underbrush. But the shadows seemed to have a mind of their own. They wrapped around Sarah's feet, pulling her toward the boy and girl into a collective doom. "Mom!" Jamie's voice sounded like it was pulled underwater, muffled and desperate. She felt his hand slip through hers as the darkness instilled in her a sense of impending isolation. "No! I won't leave you!" she screamed, fighting against the suffocating grip of the horror enveloping her. The pit yawned beneath her, shadows roaring into the depths, screaming for her to join them. "Get Lily!" she yelled, her voice raw, clawing at the thin veil of sanity. But as she lunged for her daughter, the creature surged between them, a grotesque smile splitting its face, its teeth glimmering like shards of glass. "Come to me," it whispered, its breath freezing. In that moment of dread, the air shimmered like heat through a desert, and Sarah realized this wasn't just a monster. No, it was something far worse, something that had been waiting for them, craving their fear. With a sudden burst of power, She shoved against the encroaching darkness, but as she did, the floor beneath her broke apart, dropping her down with a stomach-churning plummet into a never-ending abyss. It was too late for her. She had made her choice. Could her children still be saved? The shadows pushed in, tendrils reaching, pulling, wrapping her in a grip of despair. Would she fall alone, or would the cries of her children pull her back from the brink? As darkness swallowed her whole, a haunting echo resounded in the void. Join us, when did the echoes really begin? And what if this descent was just the beginning? The darkness closed in, thick and suffocating. Sarah flailed against it, the swirling shadows clawing at her heart, each whispered promise a poison that settled in her bones. Yet far away a pinprick of light flickered, calling to her like a lighthouse through a storm. "Mom!" The anguished cry of Jamie broke through the din, an anchor in the tempest. Summoning every ounce of strength, she fought the weight of despair. "I'm coming, sweetheart," she choked out, her voice cracking under the strain. With each frantic beat of her heart, she concentrated on that light, imagining it growing stronger, valiantly fighting against the relentless shadows that desperately pulled her under. As she fell further into the abyss, memories filtered through her mind, a tapestry woven from laughter, joy, and love. The birthday parties, family dinners, even moments of simple play. Each memory glimmered like stars against the void and rekindled a flicker of hope deep within her soul. She grasped onto it like a lifeline. "Stay together," she urged as she felt her consciousness split, the darkness tugging at her memories, threatening to swallow them whole. "We are stronger together. Remember who we are." "That is right, Mom. We want to give in." Jamie's voice soared through the void, undeterred by the chaos that surrounded them. They focused on each other, the bond of love intertwining their souls, the force strong enough to push against the oppressive night. In that moment, she saw them, their figures glowing with warmth and outline against the consuming shadows. "Lily! Jamie!" she screamed, reaching out while the dark threatened to engulf her. With a final surge of power, propelled by sheer love and determination, Sarah thrust herself toward the light, her arms outstretched. "We don't belong here." Suddenly, an explosion of brightness ruptured the darkness, enveloping them in warmth, banishing the cold tendrils that slithered across their bodies. The clearing exploded into existence around them. The air shimmered with golden hues, the oppressive weight lifting as the dark figures hissed and shrieked, retreating into the chaos from which they came. Panting, Sarah fell to her knees, clutching her children who rushed to her side, eyes wide with disbelief. "Mom, we're back?" Jamie whispered, awe creeping into his voice. "Yes. We're together. We're safe," she explained, relief washing over her like a tidal wave. But all around them, the shadows lingered just beyond the edges of their fragile sanctuary, still whispering, still hungry. The hollow laughter echoed faintly, a reminder of the darkness that would never fully let go. "We have to go home," Sarah asserted, pulling Jamie and Lily close as she looked up at the fading light. It filled her with togetherness and determination, a shield against whatever lurked in the shadows. "We face this together no matter what." They began to navigate through the trees, hearts pulsing in unison, their bond stronger than any fear. The path felt clearer now, their instincts guiding them past snaking roots and remnants of the dark. Through the thickening woods, the sun broke through the branches, ushering in the dawn. Sarah breathed deeply, the fresh scent of pine and dirt filling her lungs. They moved forward, fueled by the knowledge of what they had conquered. Even as they stepped into the light, the shadows retreated. She could feel their presence still, lurking, twisting around them like smoke, but they couldn't touch what had been illuminated. "Mom, do you think they'll come back?" Lily asked, voice laced with the innocence of childhood. "Maybe," Sarah replied softly, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. "But now we know how to fight. We stick together, no matter what." With each word, she felt her courage swell, the echo of laughter fading behind them, replaced by the comforting sound of the wind rustling through the trees. The vitality of the world around them burgeoned. Their adventure was over, after all. Together, they walked away from the haunted remnants of the past, the sun rising higher, illuminating a new beginning. They were survivors, forged through the fire of fear. As they stepped into the embrace of daylight, they knew they were capable of facing anything the darkness dared to throw at them. But on the periphery of their memories, the whispers remained forever etched into the fabric of their skin. And so, life in Willow Creek resumed, woven into the heart of their family, a fresh start built on resilience. For Sarah, the shadows would always exist, but together, they would shine brighter. Now, before you go off with wild theories about what happens next, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, because it really helps us reach more people who crave this kind of chilling adventure. Plus, I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and your wildest theories. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support.